Hi there, Dawn the Stitching Coach, back for week 4 of our Christmas knit along, sponsored by New England Yarn. So far, we have made the candy cane, Christmas tree, and mitten. Remember to register for the knit along finale on October 29th, when we'll ice our cookies together and I'll teach you how to embellish your knit. In this video, we'll be making the gingerbread person, but I'll be demonstrating an alternative construction. Now go to page 3 of the pattern where you'll find the instructions for the gingerbread head. Yes, you read that right and you heard me right. We'll be working this pattern backwards in order to skip picking up stitches. If you want to write this down, I recommend watching first, going back, and then knitting along. Let's get started. Here you can see I've finished the gingerbread person's head. I'm going to show you how I've knit backwards, but I wanted just to show you what it's going to look like when it's almost finished and we get ready to reorganize our stitches to continue knitting the gingerbread person from the crown of his head to the tip of his toes. You'll notice that I have a marker, so that helped remind me where the beginning of my round is, so I didn't accidentally start a new row on the back side. I've put this on barber cord so I can show you how we're going to replace those decreases with increases. I personally did not do a knit front and back because I didn't want to see the little purl bumps on the top of his head, but you could replace the increase I'm suggesting with whatever increase works for you. I'm suggesting that you use a lifted increase. You'll see it often referred to as a K1B, knit one below. We're actually going to be knitting into the purl bump on the stitch below the one you see on your needle. Okay, we're ready to cast on. You can use either Judy's Magic Cast On or Emily Ocker's Circular Cast On, or whatever cast on brings you joy. But I find those two cast ons make for a neat and tidy top of the head. We're also, again, repeating, I'm going to start at the bottom on round 11. I'm going to cast on 6 stitches, and I'm going to be replacing the knit two togethers and the slip slip knit. So let's show you how that works. For Judy's Magic Cast On, I'm going to drape my yarn over the top needle, twist it, then begin. We have 2 stitches, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches, 3 on each needle. We're ready for magic loop method. We're going to bring our needle around for magic loop method. Make sure that we don't use that tail. So I'm holding the tail away so I don't accidentally grab that. And we're going to knit all the stitches. Again, make sure you're looking at something that looks like a knit stitch and not something that looks like a purl bump. I'm going to knit across all those stitches. Turn my needles, bring my tail out of the way, bring my working yarn out of the way. So you should be looking at the purl stitches, but then we're knitting so we see those knit stitches. Again, we're not knitting with the tail. That would be a really short knitting project. This is the second half of the round. When we turn our needles around this time, we're going to insert a stitch marker just as a reminder. Yes, you can use the tail as a reminder, but as we knit the head, that's going to get harder and harder to see which side it's on. So I always recommend putting a stitch marker in your next stitch, or you can put it on the needle, whichever works for you. Now we're going to be knitting or replacing rather, instead of decreasing, we're going to be increasing. So I'm going to be replacing the knit two together with a lifted increase. Because we have so few stitches, it's going to be harder to see the bars in between. So a lifted increase will actually work better. It's really difficult to see those bars to do the make one left or the make one right because it's so tight in here. So my suggestion is doing the knit one below. So you're going to take your needle and put it into the purl bump below the one on your needle. So you can see that purl bump. Let me give that a little focus. So the purl bump that's here, we're going to knit into that purl bump and bring that up. That's our first stitch. And then we're going to knit the next stitch. So anytime you see an increase, remember, if it's a knit two together or a slip slip knit, you are taking two and making them into one. So whenever you see a decrease, remember it's not just the increase, it's the next stitch after. So if you're following the pattern, we're going to go and into the back of that purl bump below the one on the needle, knit into that, bring it up. That's your next stitch. But then you have to knit the next one to complete the reverse of that knit two together. Now I'm going to show you the replacement for the slip slip knit. When we come around, instead of a slip slip knit, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to be increasing by going into the purl bump, knitting into that purl bump. That's our next stitch. And then knit the next one to complete the reverse of that slip slip knit. And then we're going to knit as normal. So again, you're going to follow the pattern, but you're going to follow it backwards, doing those increases instead of decreases. When you get to the middle section where you're making the middle of the head, after you do that, you're going to pick up at round 8 and knit as the pattern states. When you get down to here at the neck, we're going to be repositioning our stitches. Here's how that's going to look. In order to rearrange to start the neck, you've cast on, you've knit the head backwards, you've ended with 6 total stitches. So remember, she gives you a stitch check-in. So make sure after each round, you know you have the right number of stitches. That's crucial. When we end, we're going to have only 6 stitches. So we're going to have to increase to get it back to where the neck is supposed to be, which is 12 stitches, 6 on each needle for magic loop method. So I need to rearrange these because the way she writes the pattern, you're starting at the center of the neck. And then, so that means really the head is these sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the last stitch and put it on the front needle. And then I'm going to push this back in. And I'm going to move the last stitch on the front needle to the back. That around. And now I'm going to readjust the beginning of my round, and the head gets readjusted. I still have my stitch marker showing the front, and changing it does change the shape slightly. Now that we have a little bit more underneath our needles, you can do a make one left and a make one right. I'm going to make one right. I'm gonna knit the next stitch. Gonna make one left. So remember, make one left. I left the front door open because I'll be right back. So I left the front door open. I'll be right back. Okay. Knit one more. We need to do one more increase. I'm going to do it right here on the side. Let's do and make one left again. Again, the increases aren't super crucial because this is the neck and you're not going to really notice if it's a make one left, make one right, or if it's a lifted increase or whatever increase is your favorite. Just make sure you have 2, 4, 6 on this needle before you turn around. And now I'm turning my work. Move that yarn out of the way. At this point with the tail, you can either just shove it into his head, like sugar plums dancing in his head. You can take a darning needle, pull it out, do a duplicate stitch around, and then stuff it in, whichever way works for you. I wouldn't put too much bulk in there though, so if you cut it, I would cut it loose right here. We're now going to knit, increase. I'll do a make one right. So again, I left the front door open because I'll be right back. So right is the needle in the back that you knit into the front. That's a little bit tight. Knit the next stitch. Let's do a left this time. I left the front door open, so I'm going into the front of that stitch, but I'm knitting the back of that stitch. Knit the next stitch. We only have 5, so we got to do one more stitch. Grab the bar that's right there in between, and let's do another left. Now we have 12 stitches, and now you are set up and ready to knit the pattern as stated, just the way it is. My next recommendation or tip is use your barber cords for the arms. You're going to be knitting the torso, but you're going to want to save those stitches. So use those barber cords so that you can continue knitting. They're also useful when you get to the leg. But that's pretty much it. This one was a short video, but that gives you lots of time to knit more cookies. I hope this video was helpful. If you have trouble with this, ask me questions. I'm happy to answer questions. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. I hope to see you on one of those platforms soon. And also hope to see you on October 29th when we ice our cookies. See you soon. Bye.